All right, we're going to begin our journey today through the Idra Rabbah on page Tuf Ayin Zion. So he had this concept that he was talking about the three sections of the arm, the right arm particularly. It's a little vague to me exactly how they connect. He had said previously that the right arm connects with the left arm, and the left arm connects with the right arm. So that sounds like an old song I heard. Anyway, let's go on. So he said, "V'ha yamina kad Yosef." So the right line is chesed, Zair Anpin, Yoshev v'sholit ba'olam, that it is in position and it controls what's going on. Kishrin is pashta, az chasadim b'shlosha pirkei yad yamim. So again, he's using the word yad here to refer to the right side. He says those three sections of that arm is pashta in the mata ba'olam, they spread downwards into the world. Rachamim b'kol olamos, and all of the worlds below. That is the Bia. In the words of Bia, it arouses Rachamim. The drova lo oshet yadei b'slas kishrim da'amran. V'chazroa. Now this arm, we're talking about the left arm now because he used the word zeroa to refer to the arm, to the left arm. Shuhu yad small shel Zair Anpin. Elu moshet oz es yado. He doesn't really extend its hand at all. The Handish Ein mispashtin the gevur b'shecha b'chushlosh pirkei yad small and this karm they when the right side is in charge and it is mispashet, then the left is really kind of dormant. V'kad misarech chayuvayim mispashta ba'alma would have the opposite though. Avachal kasher misorder them a rishayim, but when there is an arousal of those who die of the evil one lahachnia b'maisech hovonos in order to lahachis, that they cause tremendous anger by the deeds that they do. Misrabim osim risha ba'olim. So then you're making evil in the world. Misaran plus achronim. Az misordenim gavrim. Hagevuros mispashta b'shlosha pirkim acherim. So then what happens is this is another set of gevuros which now is spreading and taking control. Al yashal yad small. In other words, it takes control of the right line. The inun dinikash that represent hardin, shem dinim kashin va'oshe deroa, va'oz mispashtim dinichas roa smallis. So now he said what's happened in these three sections of the left arm now starts to spread downwards. Ba'olim kadei lepol din b'rishayim. In order to punish the rishayim. Because Oshe Deroa, when this arm extends, when that left arm is extended, Yad Yamino Ku Oz HaGevuros Shal Zroa Smalis, then you see that the gevuros that are in the left arm, Govrim, they overpower Menechlala B'chasadim Shal Yad Yamim. They consume or they overpower and they incorporate the chasadim into themselves. But now, when it incorporates the other side, it's called by a different name. It's the arm of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Zroacha, this is your arm, which is extended. Hanatuya. He says, Ein Yad Yamim, Nikra Yad Yamim, Ela Nikra B'Pasek Zroa Hashem, Oz Nikra, he says, Zroacha Hanatuya. Al Shem gevuros yad small hanechlalim bo, because now we have the left has come into the right, and so we're using the word zroacha, that left arm extended, but you have rachamim mixed into it to some extent, so you have the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Then going on, it says bezimna the slas elan is kalila b'slas achronim. So my first problem is with this understanding is how the two lines get together. He hasn't mentioned the middle line. He says they just combine, and it's a question of dominance. But when they go to the left, when the right moves to the left, and they incorporate that way, and he's talking, I guess he's saying, it's a precedence of which one is stimulated. Ikri kula yamina, then everything is called right. Az gam yad small nikra b'shem yaminacha. So then the yad, which is now he's talking about the left arm, is now called a yad. Small, he says nikra b'shem yamim, it's all called by the name of the right. But in any din that it has to do, it mixes it with rachmanas. B'yad small po'elas po'ulas din b'shita rachamim with a partnership joining together with rachamim. Because chasadim shall yamim anechlalim, but because of the chasadim that are the chasadim that are incorporated in it. Umevi raya shagam yad small nikra b'shem yamim. So then here's a proof that it's called that the left arm could also be called right. Chadad said this is the meaning of this phrase, Yeminach Hashem Ne'adari B'koach. So I guess Ne'adari is supposed to like trample them with strength. Yeminach, that's your right arm. Yeminach Hashem Tiratz Oyevin, it will tear up your enemies. Hinech HaKasav Kafel Kan Yeminach. So in this pasuk you see the word your right arm twice. Shtei Pamim Shehem Echa Keneged Yad Yamim. One means corresponding to the right arm. Ve'echad keneged yad small. Ki gam yad small nikras b'shem yamin, because also the right arm is now called by the name. He says the right hand, which would be the right arm, is also called by the name right. Kamosha sha'amarnu. If I didn't say that right, it's the left arm is now called by the name of right. Begin the misa'arech of rachmei b'chu, because why that you are now mixing in rachmanis with it. V'chatam ki arachmim v'chasadim shal yad yamim is ordered v'nichlala begevuros. So you have now the rachmanis going into and incorporating itself with the gevuros al yad small the yadzod al kol nikra yamim kamor. Now this is some kind of a principle which is supposed to be important. For ta'ana, so we learn like this: Bahai Yamina, talking about this right arm, this right hand. Ki bezecha yad yamim shal Zair Anpin misachtan tlas ma v'shivin elef ribo. So on that right arm you have nechazim v'nishrashim shlosh mea v'shvim elef ribo malachim. So the elef and the ribo must have to do with his position in Itzilus. The 370 is the milui of Kale twice. So he says 185 and 185. So Kale is Chesed. So let's see. Let me read the words again. Tana Bahai Yumina Misachdim Tlas Ma B'Shavim Aleph Ribo. So he says that you have this 370,000, 10,000 malachim. The Ikrum Yumina that are all called right-sided. Hanikrayim Yamim Al Shem Shorsham Biyad Yamim. It said all of these malachim are all of these. Well, this word is Shiva Elef Riba Malachim. Yeah, all of these malachim have their root in the right. Then you have 145,000, 10,000 Mizroah. The Ikri Zroah Hashem, which is called the Zroah of Hashem. So what is this? So now we're back to the word arm again, which refers to the situation, apparently, from where he says the right is inside of the left, and then the left is called the Zroah Hashem. Small is they're all rooted in that left line. Shal Zair Anpin Hanikra Zroa Havaya, which now is being called by that name, the Zroa, the arm of Yud Kei Vav Kei. For V'amar Odin, he says furthermore, Ki Elu Hashtei Yadayim Nechlala Beguf. These two hands, or these now their arms, right, are in part they're incorporated in the body. Shehu Teferish Shehi Bechinas Yad Shlishis. So now we find that all of these. The question that I had was that how do you get to the right arm and to the left arm and vice versa? They have to go through some middle ground, and here he brings in the middle ground. If we're talking about this right hand, and then this hand which works on the left, taluya od zroa shlishis. So between them, now this word taluya means there's hanging a third arm. Hayotzes be'emse bein shnehem, and where does it develop? It develops in the middle between the two of them. V'hai ikre teferes. So this and that are now called teferes. Now let's see how he translates. V'azroa hazos, this middle arm. Hakolula min shtei hayidayim nikroim teferes, which actually this middle one is incorporated within him the other two lines. And this is called Teferes. The Mevi Rayam in the pasuk, so he brings his pasuk. Shat Teferis, he bechinas zroa shlishis, that the Teferis is actually the third arm. Dechsev kamosha kosev molech liyamin Moshe. So move it, or it rent, molech, it was moved liyamin Moshe, to the right side of Moshe, zroa tefarto. So I guess that's the whole pasuk. Molech liyamin Moshe zroa tefarto, that is the arm. Bring this to Moshe, the arm of his Teferis. Ha Yamina. So ha Yamina, this is the right. V'hine Memasha Amar L'Yamim Harekan Yad Yamim and Nikras Yamim. So since it says Yamim in the pasuk, he says Molech L'Yamim. So he says, since it says a Nikra Yamim, it's called right. Zroa, it's also called by the name of arm. Ha Smola, which means the left side. Dechsiv Zroa. So you have two different concepts. You have the arm, which means the left, and the yamina, which of course means the right. V'chein harei kan yad smol hanikra zeroa. So now you have this concept of the left, which is always called an arm. Gomosha kasav zeroa. So because it writes this word zeroa, the arm, tifarto of his teferis, da b'da, one with the next. It's a mixer. So then it adds in this word tefarto, it's teferis. Harekan yad shlishis. This is bringing us to a third hand, third arm. Shlishis hakolula b'shtehem, which is incorporated within it both of the others. But ta'ana, so we learn like this: bidah smola, on the left arm, misachsim arba ma. So we said this before. There are 400 v'chamishim ribo mare trisin. So 450 is 45s, right? So he says Vatana, he says again, on the left arm, there are 450,000, 10,000 shield bearers. So shield goes with defense. Ki beyond small shall Zair Anpin, on his left arm. Ne'achazev v'neshroshim od arba meis v'chamishim 450 ribo 10,000 malachim. He said 10,000 malachim bale maginim, and they all have shields. What's pshat? Because elo ha'arba ha'beber v'chamishim ribo einem ne'achazim b'makom echad b'yad small. They're not all holding on to one particular place. They're spread out, apparently. Misachdim b'kol etzba v'etzba, but instead they move down to the fingers. And on that place, these bale maginim, these shield bearers, are all holding onto the fingers of the right of this arm. Let me see what he means. Elohim ne'achazim v'nishroshim b'kol etzba be'etzba shel yad small, on the left arm. Now, the left arm is the idea of gevuro. So therefore, the hands are vehicles of tzimtzum, of mitzamsem something. The hainu Teshim ribo lukol etzba. So if you take 450 and divide it by 5, you get to 90. So now you have 90 10,000s on every finger of these gevuros. Lukol etzba, and in every single finger, be'etzba eser alafim, there are another 10,000 mare trisim mishtatchim. So you're going to find another 10,000. Ubelvad elo teshim v'ribo, besides these 90 10,000s here of malachim that are on each one of the fingers, bale maginim have shields. Now pshat and shields, I'm not sure yet. They're holding on every single finger. Yesh od asara alafim malachim. There's another 10,000 malachim. He says asara alaf, and 10,000 malachim bali magidim, who also have shields. And besides the 90, there's another 10,000 or 10,000. Puk v'chashav kama inun debidah. So he said ma'ata, say v'chashav. So come now over here and start considering. Ma'ata say v'chashav kama malachim bali maginim yesh b'kol yad small. So let's look at every left arm has all of these bali maginim. How many are there? The hainu sheyesh lachshov arba b'mei v'chamishim ribo. So you have to take the 90,000. 90. Let me see. I get my number. The lachshov arba mei is the 450,000, 10,000 rather, that we had in od chamishim elef, and with another 100,000, 50,000 malachim. The chamesh's bows for his 5 fingers. shehem chamisha ribo, which comes out to be 10,000. V'oz nimsaj hakol yachad mispar shel arba meos v'hamishim ribo malachim. So then they're all going to be the same. Let me get these numbers right. There's 450 and 10,000 malachim balei maginim b'kol yad small and all of the line of the left. Now he doesn't bother to break these numbers down exactly, but we can see that's the number 450, which goes along with, I don't know, the letter Vav and Zair Anpin and Olam Yetzira and all of those things there, but I don't know exactly how he works it. But here we're talking about the hand of the left. So let's talk about the right hand now. The right arm, or right hand, shall Zair Anpin nikra siyul de kedusha. So it's really a help, an agent for a kedusha. Because here, from this right line, is the help for a person that is put into a world of choice. The right line tends us to want to be close to the Torah and the mitzvahs. Like a rabbi said, so the person wants to get him to mitzvahs and doing good things and to purify himself, he gets help. So he said this comes from the right line. Back to the three joints again. So he says that this all comes from the right arm with its three joints. Where does this help come from? So the help comes from the three sockets of the right arm, or three sections of the right arm, where there has a chasadim going through them. But baby raya sha'al yadei hayad. So now is bringing a proof like this, that through this hand, nimshach koch v'siyul his gaver al hadavar, it has the ability to give you the strength to overcome whatever. Now the word davar is hanging here. So it could be I don't know, the Yetzer Hara is sometimes called the davar. So Dechsev Kamosha Kosev, he says, Vahine, Yadi Imach, my hand is with you. Lahasiv Alecha as called Yisrael, in order to be able to return to you, I guess Lahasiv, I'm not sure what that means, to you, all of the Jewish people. Pirusha, what does it mean? Sha'avner, here's what he says, Shehoye Ish Gibor. Amar the David the Melech, he said to David, I'm going to help you with my strength and with my ability. So he said, what was the words he said? He said, the Hasev Alecha as called Yisrael the Pirusha. So I'm looking for the word Yad. Shachayad ku kinoi lekoech. So Yad is also another word you could say, like, give me a hand. It's another word for siyu, help. His gaver aladavar, so to be able to overcome the davar. So therefore, when we talk about Zair Anpin and Olam Atzilos, when we think about that upper right arm, yad, which is also used the word yad for this, he nimshach min chasadim and mispashnim bo. So this really comes out. So it means that he said that yad here we mean siua, it's a help. Because they're the chasadim going down these three joints, that's the reason why. To overcome the Yetzer Hara, instead to choose to get involved in learning Torah mitzvahs. And he says furthermore, and they grow together with this. Elef v'arba ribo v'samya v'chamesh ma alfim. So now let's go back to the right hand. Ne'achazim v'nishrashim elef v'arba meos ribo. So we have these big numbers here. He says 1,400 10,000 malachim. V'shmona v'chamesh meos elef malachim. And then also b'dijla, there's another 85. He says shmona v'chamesh. Shmona is 8. You think he means 80. V'chamesh meos elef malachim, and then there's another of these of the group of malachim. He says shmona v'chamesh meos. Excuse me, it's 8 and 5. It should be shmonim v'chamesh, I think. meus elef malachim. Ma'arechem desiyuchu b'kol alma. So they are the masters, really, of helping in every world. Shuhu bali siyua. Who are these? What is number? He says elef v'arba ribo. So it's 1,000 and 10,000, 1,000 and 10,000, and 8 and 500 alafim, thousands. All of these. Ma'arechem desiyua b'kol alma. They're there to help. Shehem bali siua. They're helpers. Mispashtim b'kol olam. They spread in all of the worlds in order to bring Torah down there, or to help people to choose Torah. And they help, and they go along with the person who wants to go to the path of the right. To help him to get into Avodas Hashem. Then he says furthermore, the V'ikram Yad Hashem Eloah, and it's called Yad Hashem Eloah, the upper hand of Hashem, but it says the hand of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, up from up above. Yad Hashem Tata, and then there's another one. There's the Yad Hashem, which is down below. Yad Yamin, Yad Small, these two hands, Zair Anpin, they call him Yad Havayav Elyonet. It's also called the Yad of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is up above, Mitzad Yamin, Mitzad Yad Yamin, from the side of the right hand. V'yad Havaya HaTachtoina, that other one where it says the same words, but now it says Tachtoina down below, Mitzad Yad Small. And this here now was talk about the left arm. V'shol v'af al gab de b'kol aser Yad Havaya Smola. So we understand that the Yad Havaya, we're talking about the left. V'af al fisha b'kol makom shenizker b'torah Yad Havaya, where it says Yad Havaya, Hakavona Bistama, the Yad Small. So when it says Yad Havaya, it wants to say the left line. Being came Hech Ata Omer Sheyad Yamim Nikra Yad Havaya El Yonim. So he have one called Yad Havaya, and the other have another one called, apparently he's saying this, Yad Havaya El Yonim, the upper Yad Havaya. Umeshiv, and he said, what this? So how can one refer to the right and the other one refers to the left? He said, Ki Av Sheyad Yad Yamim. Mitzad Atzmo Yikra Yad Havaya. So looking at the right arm just by itself, you call it by the name Yad Havaya. So, excuse me, I got it wrong. Yad Havaya El Yona. Just by itself, it's called the upper right arm. Kamosha Amarna, like we said before, Makom Batera Einoch Nikra Yak Rak Yamin. It's only called right. Vatam Zachu Yamim Hashem. So what does this mean? It's called Yudah Bizroa. So when the right hand is in charge, Ki'im Zachu HaTachtainim, and he says particularly the word Schus refers to our ability to be able to bring up Mayim Nukvin. He said, V'ma'asechem az chasadim shal yad yamim. So then what happens is the chasadim that are found in the right arm, Hanikra Yamim Havaya, which is called also similar name Yamim Havaya, but this doesn't have the word Elyon in it. Nechlalam gevuros shal yad small Hanikra Zroa. So then it incorporates with himself into the left, which is called the left arm. V'hare siyul v'ikre Yamin. V'im gam gevuros shal yad small Messiahim l'adam b'chavodas Hashem. So when this is happening, the word was va'azai then the left arm, when the left arm has he has an infiltration, I'm not sure exactly what the word is, or the right arm takes over the left arm, then it turns out that the left also helps in Avodas Hashem. And this is similar to the chasadim, V'gan Yad Small Nikra Az Yamin. So then it's also called right. V'ilav Yad Hashem Tata. If you don't like that, we could also call it the lower Yad Hashem. V'im lo zacha tachtonim, but he says it like this. He says that if the tachtonim are not zacha, b'ma'asehim, so we're not learning and we're not growing. Az chasadim shebiyad yamim maskimim, the gevuros shebiyad small. Then we decided that the chasadim which you find in the right arm, they are all in agreement for the yad small. La'anish es adam, in order to punish this man. Va'az Nekroim shtei yidayim b'shem yad havaya tata. So then they're both, when the left is dominant, we have different words for this, he says. But the idea is that when the right is dominant, it's a great help. When the left is dominant, then it's going to be punishment. So now we come to another section, and this is called the Sod and Nesira. So obviously, anybody listening to this, you're getting right into the mix of the deepest ideas here. It says, Ta'ana lamdano lamadno, we learned. Kad misarin dinin kashim, when there is at his orus a very strong dinim, la'achsa ba'alma, and they're coming down into the world. Kishim es order bedinim kashim, the reddest, the oilam, mach b'savonis atachtoini, because of the sins of the lower worlds. Chach Kasiv, it's written over there on this, he said, Sod Hashem l'reyav. The secret of Hashem is to those who fear him. What does that mean? Ki yodim emisai yesov dinim akashim, because no one knows exactly when the end to these dinim kashim are going to come. V'gadum zagalos achram, and just similar like this exile, this final exile that we're in. She'ein anu yodim emisai kate zagalos, because we don't really know when it's going to end. Ki edu hadinim heim besod hanukva. Now let's look at this, because the dinim that we're into now are the secret of the nukva, shehein tekifim besofa. And this is his concept he wants to work here, because they're strong at the end. Kolomar, shemiz gavrim besofam, that they get stronger as they go towards the end of the time of the din. Ve'ein yodim emisai ketzim besofam, nobody knows when they come to an end, where their end is. This is similar to what the Rav says about winter, because right now we're in the winter cycle, and there is where everything starts out tough. It's coming from the side of the nukva and full of din, but as it gets sweetened as we go along, so I'm hoping for that for our year. So it's on the Atana b'tzniusa the Sifra. So in this Sifra the tzniusa, it's interesting that Rebbe Shimon is saying this. So it means to me that the Sifra the tzniusa really preceded the Idra Rabbah, unless it's possible that you could say it all at the same time. I don't know. So now those secrets over there, they're called dinim ishtatkin b'dechura. So he says, "Shekol chadinim hanimsayim v'nimshachim mikoich Zair Anpin." The dinim really are spread, as my word. They're found and they extend out from the power of Zair Anpin. Tekifim bereisha. The nature of these dinim are very strong at the beginning. Heim kashim v'tekifim b'tzad techidas parts of Zair Anpin. So they're strong, they're tough. From the side will come from Zair Anpin. The fish hamochim shall Zair Anpin, because the mochim is Zair Anpin. Heim min netzach hod yisod, they come from the nai shall tavuna. Shehi bechinas nukva v'dinim. So since what's coming into Zair Anpin is coming from a female force, so therefore we say that it's, I meant to say source, so then we made to say that, and also a force is coming into Zair Anpin from the left side because it's female. V'lechein ha-gevuros v'chadinim nimshachim min rosh Zair Anpin, so therefore those dinim that are coming down into the rosh Zair Anpin, mispashtim sham l'malo v'bechayte v'bepeh v'zrolas v'yadayim v'chitzbol shel Zair Anpin, and they go through the entire the entire body of Zair Anpin. But here he explains it. For it goes into the nose, into the mouth, into the arms, into the hands, into the fingers of Zair Anpin. But Naichem Besofa, and then there they stop, they rest. V'heim Naichem, in other words, they become calm and nicer. V'nim talking and sweetened mitzad sof parts of Zair Anpin, when you look at the end of the parts of Zair Anpin. Ki gevurah v'chadinim mismatkim b'chasadim hamiskabsim b'yisod shel Zair Anpin. So when all of these gevuros wind up going into Zair Anpin, but nonetheless, when they come to the place of his yisod, they meet up with chasadim, and then they become sweetened. So that's in the nai. We're talking about there is in the nai of Zair Anpin. Or particularly in the yisod of Zair Anpin. Could be kain hanetzach hod yisod. So now the nai shall Zair Anpin, shein bebechinas dinim, which really relative to Zair Anpin are his most din part. Mismatkim gam chen kasheniknasa berosh nukva, and they're also sweetened as they go into the head of the nukva, b'naasim mochim b'nimim the nukva, and they become the mochim inside of the head of the nukva. So this is an act of, I guess he says, an act of, I don't know. So he said, called dinim mishtatkim menukva. So then, as these are being put into the mukva, and they said they were sweetened on the way in, because the dinim and nimsayim and nimshachim mikoyach hanukva, nachim beresha, they all now rest in her head. Heim noichim, they come to that place and they're lodged there. V'nim talking berosh parts of a nukva, and they're sweetened in the head of the nukva. Why? Why should they be sweetened? Chasadim should be yisod the Zair Anpin, because they have to pass through the yisod of Zair Anpin. So this is a concept I have trouble relating to the anatomical part of this. Is he saying that the yisod of Zair Anpin corresponds in some way to the head of the nukva? Well, so I was saying the top of the head, her kesser, is really at the chaz of Zair Anpin, and here you talk about the nai of Zair Anpin. It's a different place. So, but that's not apparently what he wants to say. So he said, Ki chasadim should be so the Zair Anpin, ha'oma kenega the isha, which are opposite the woman. V'heim mamtikim as a gevuros shabarosha. So the gevuros that are going into her head are going to be sweetened. The molkena dinim shall netzachod yisod. So also the dinim that are in the nai normally Zair Anpin, haniknasi berosh nukva besod mochin, that now have gone into the head of the nukva in the secret of. There are now her mochin. Hine gam hein mismatkim. How do they get sweetened? They're also sweetened. Kishana asim mochin penimim the nukva. When they come in, they become mochin to the nukva. Now, why is that? Because they get involved also with the chasadim. But the kifim besofa. Now these though become, as they're sweetened right now, as they pass through the nukva, they become harder and harder. But the kifim besoda v'chem dinim kashim. But the kifim besofa parts of shal hanukva. So we're almost done here. So we're at the end of this parts of ki hagevuros hamispashtos b'yisod the nukva. Those gevuros that spread into the yisod of the nukva, einim nimtakim, they're not sweetened. They get further away from the source of where the sweetness was, I guess. Hiyosha ein yisod the nukva oimed keneged makom b'chasadim, because the yisod of the nukva is not near. It's not in the same location as where the chasadim are. Shall yisod Zair Anpin. They're below it. So the nukva mitzad atzma ein lo chasadim. She doesn't her yisod, there's no chasadim in it. V'nish arim hagavuru sham below mituk. Now this sounds like probably a strong idea to think about it. V'od ki hadinim shall netzachod yisod. So normally the nukva, so her bottom part would be the most remote part and the biggest dinim. Ein lechem mituk. They don't ever get sweetened. The parts of acher, because why? What's the reason why they get it sweetened? He's apparently postulating that as you move from one parts of to the parts of below it, there is some sweetening that takes place to move it that way. Because he says, Ki hare einem naasim mochin the parts of acher, there's no reason for them to be sweetened because they're not going anywhere. Which in fact are going to bleed into or somewhere feed into the nukva. Shahare ain the nukva parts of metachtech, there's no parts of below her. There's nothing for it to become mochin to. I think there's a lot in this. It could be the concept that even though that they're the nai of ima, let's say for example is dinim, but dinim in ima in Zair Anpin or chasadim. Could be that's also a possibility because they're being absorbed, but they're being absorbed, it's like the panemius, the chisonius of the upper becomes the panemius of the lower. It could be the same thing as that the switches and the negativity of the dinim switches over when it comes into the lower, and now it looks like a bright shining star. Sachav shalom mochin. V'nishar anetza hod yisod below mituk, and so therefore they remain without sweetening. Thank you very much for learning with me. I know we went over time a little bit. Kol tov. Hello? I don't know what that was all about.